And we're back to the Sort of Sports Podcast, Episode 4. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, where have you been? It's been like a month and a half. Well, Thanksgiving happened. That was a great time. And I didn't do my draft predictions because the NBA draft ended up being like a week later than I thought it was. And then I realized my free trial of Power Director went out. So, yeah. I definitely still enjoy making the podcast. I love making the podcast. It's a lot of fun. And so now I have lots and lots of stuff to talk about. So this will probably be our longest episodes, and I'll probably have to do 2 separate recording sessions. But yeah, it's very exciting. Yes, I'm sorry for being gone for a bit between the free trial and then Thanksgiving and all that. It's just been a bit. And so, yeah, I still definitely enjoy doing this. Don't anybody worried. But all right, so here we go into the first thing we're going to talk about. Just a quick thing, and it's the MLB. And really the biggest news of the MLB, of course, free agency is going to be starting up soon, winter meetings, all that. Trevor Bauer, I've talked about in the past what I think is going to happen there. I still think the Mets are going to be big spenders. But the real big thing is the Indians. Being an Ohio native, the Cleveland Indians, they've always been like the baseball team to me. I am a Cubs fan, but because I went to the Wrigley Field when I was a little kid and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And overall, like, my parents always been big Indians people. So it just kind of brings me a lot of pain to know that they're changing the name, and I completely understand why and all that. But I had an idea of what they should change it to, in my opinion, and that's the Tribe. And this wasn't my idea. I saw a tweet. I don't know who exactly it was. I wish I could credit it, but I just remember some guy tweeted and said they should make it the Tribe. Their nickname's been the Tribe for the longest time, and it's not offensive. That should go. So as long as Tribe is not offensive, I'm pretty sure it isn't. Like Indians, I can see how people can be offended, but I don't really think Tribe would be. But granted, I'm not really the person to ask. But I think Tribe would really work. I think Tribe's a really good idea. They can keep everything the same. Obviously, I think they're trading Lindor. All the reports are saying they're trading Lindor, and I just hope and pray it's not to the Dodgers or the Yankees. Hopefully the Mets. I would love that. And yes, I'm not a Mets fan. I just think it'd be fun if the Mets were good. Moving over to the NBA. Last time we talked about NBA, the season was just scheduled, and I was so excited. And now we are on to big things because John Wall was traded, and that was pretty bloody crazy. And I still stand by. I think Harden's gone. Whether he's with them at the season, I'm guessing at this point it looks like he's going to be with them at the season, but I feel like as soon as I say that, he'll get traded that night. So maybe tonight I'll get traded, and I'll be like, crap. And then this podcast becomes outdated. But Harden being traded, I think is definitely a done deal. It just depends where he's going. I still think Simmons and maybe like Horford or Harris with Simmons for Harden is a pretty good swap. I think that's probably the way it's going to go. I don't think the Nets isn't happening. The Heat have a chance. The only issue with the Heat is who do you give up? And Tyler Hero is not better than James Harden's guy. Guys, I'm saying Tyler Hero is very good, but he is still the 3rd best player in his draft. He's not better than Ja or Zion. And you would trade... okay, never mind. You wouldn't trade Ja or Zion for Harden. I just realized that. But no, I don't think the Heat are going to trade Hero, but it's not like Hero's as good as Harden. It's just Hero is very good, and the Heat have a culture where they keep their guys. So I just don't think he's gone. Really, the only pieces they could potentially move are like Robinson, and I don't think they give up Precious Achiuwa. I got a buddy, one of my best friends is a big Heat fan. Probably have him on the podcast sometime. And he's not sure how he feels about it. He's happy with the Heat team, but he also understands, they're good now. They could go out and win it. But I don't really know how that offense... I guess it fits Harden, but Jimmy does so much of the playmaking there, and so does Dragic. Probably like Dragic, Duncan, some picks and stuff. That's what you have to move. But a lot of those Heat guys... there's probably, in my opinion, 8, 9 guys that really are untouchable. Dragic's borderline untouchable. So, I don't know, just interesting thoughts with the Heat. I don't think that's happening. I still stand by Sixers. Bucks would be sweet, even though I really don't like James Harden. I think they'd be sweet. And it's nothing against his talent. I've never doubted James Harden's talent. He's an incredibly talented player, one of the best players in the league. I'm just not a huge fan of his personality. And he doesn't like Giannis, which makes me upset because Giannis is my favorite and perfect segue. Woo! We'll go back to the Wall stuff, but right now I'm too excited. Giannis Antetokounmpo is coming back to the Bucks on a 5-year deal. And I am incredibly happy because I didn't want to have to pick between, do I love the Bucks more or Giannis more? Now I don't have to. The Cavs are obviously my favorite team. I'm going to talk about Isaac Okoro in a bit, but yes, Giannis re-signed, and all my ramblings about how he was going to stay are right, and my buddy who's a Heat fan was disappointed. But it's like Bill Simmons said on his podcast I was listening to this morning, no one loses in this scenario, like, unless you're the Mavericks, because he said he believes he was going to the Mavericks, and I think that was probably the best destination for him. But it's like, it's better for the league and for fans to have Giannis on the Bucks. And he also gave a really good comparison. He was saying, like, Giannis can have like a Dirk Nowitzki type of career now, where it's like, you stay on one team, and let's say you only win 2 rings. Well, those 2 rings mean way more than like Kevin Durant's 2 rings, because he won them on a team that he was always at and stuff. And I mean, I think Giannis will end with at least 2 rings. I'd love to see it be 6, but I mean, it's just, pieces got to fall in the right place. This decade's really weird. I feel like there's so many good young players. I mean, that's how you always feel, where it's like, oh, well, this guy could win, or this guy could win. And then it ends up being like 4 of those guys get titles. And you can never predict like the random 2011 Mavericks or the 2019 Raptors. You can never predict those teams, unless you're like a diehard fan of them. But then you're always predicting them. So is it really a prediction at that point? But this decade's going to be really interesting. I still think, like, by the end of the decade, we're going to be talking about Zion, Luka, Giannis. Those will be the big guys, and LeBron will be like, man, his send-off was amazing. And Emoni Bates. I think Emoni Bates has a lot of potential, but it's kind of weird to be talking about a guy who's not even in college and talking about how successful he's going to be in the NBA. It's just kind of weird. But yeah, Giannis, I'm so happy he's coming back, and like everybody's like, oh, well, he could still demand a trade. He could. That's completely possible. But now we don't have to sit through 9 months of First Take, and even me, like, I'll admit, even now, every single podcast, I think I've talked about Giannis and what he's going to do every time. And it's always boiled down to, I don't think he's leaving. So now we don't have to have that wasted 5 minutes of me rambling, trying to make myself feel better, and because now I already feel great, and I'm very excited to wear my Giannis jersey for my Christmas gift. So I'm pretty excited about that one. I will be wearing it with pride. And yeah, I just really hope Milwaukee wins the title this season. But that segues us over perfectly to preseason thoughts. Isaac Okoro, Obi Toppin. Interestingly enough, Obi Toppin is who I wanted the Cavs to draft, and we went with Isaac Okoro. And I'm fine with that. I just hope, like a good friend of mine said, let's hope he's Kawhi Leonard and not Stanley Johnson. And right now, I don't know if he's Kawhi Leonard, but he's been showing good signs. The Cavs rotation's weird. I feel like we need to move Garland out, or, you know, we kind of gotta move one of them out. And I don't want to get rid of Kevin Porter, and Sexton's a good scorer. So the thing with the Cavs is you just got to find an identity. And maybe Isaac Okoro is the type of player to lead a team, but he could also be a complementary player. Like, to me, Kevin Porter Jr. is a CJ McCollum level guy at his max. CJ McCollum is underrated in my opinion, but I'm saying, like, you wouldn't have CJ McCollum going off winning his own titles. He's got to be like the second or third option. He's still an all-star, but he's a second or third option. Like Chris Middleton, same way. Those type of guys. Paul George, to me, is kind of a really high-end version of that, where he feels like he always has to be the two-man if he's going to get really far. And he's, of course, better than... Also, stop underrating Paul George because he had a bad playoff. He's still very good. Stop underrating Paul George. I've seen a bunch of videos that were like, oh, Paul George sucks, and now the same people are making videos like, Paul George is underrated. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, because all the narratives are just... NBA is all about narratives. All pro sports are about narratives. That's why we're going to talk about the NFL MVP race, and it's insane right now. But Paul George, he's going to come out and probably, even if he has a good Paul George season, everybody's going to flip out and be like, man, we all forgot how good he was. I'm like, yeah, because we all just started over-exaggerating how bad he did. He did badly, but he doesn't just go from being a top 25 player to being like, you know, top 100. It's just not how that works. He didn't completely fall off the face of the earth. He's still very good. we'll go back to the Wall trade. I think it's interesting for Houston, especially now that they got Boogie, and apparently he's looking good. So I hope that works out for Houston, but I don't really know how a John Wall, Ben Simmons duo fits, and I think that's what they're thinking. So I don't really understand the move. I feel like it was one of those where they just didn't want Russ anymore, and that was like their only options. They were like, I guess. But, I mean, if the Wall thing works, that's great. I just don't know where you move Harden to get guys to complement Wall. And now you're just becoming like a 48-win team, depending on who you get. Like, it's kind of weird. It's like, if you can find a way to get young guys that you can build around while synergizing them with Wall and Boogie and somehow contending, that'd be great. But I don't really see the Rockets being a championship contender, at least this year, not with some big moves. Back to the Giannis thing, 2021 free agency is not as crazy now, and it's essentially just the Kawhi Leonard free agency. I mean, he's easily the best guy there. Oladipo's good too. And I mean, some of those guys are probably going to get overpaid now, like Griffin and Oladipo. Bill Simmons is saying on his podcast, those guys are going to get Gordon Hayward level deals where you're like, whoa, that's a lot of money. But teams had money to spend, and we're like, why not? The Hornets, talking about preseason. I know I'm jumping around a lot because I got a lot of stuff to talk about. To be honest, I just want to wrap up the Giannis thing. I am just incredibly happy, and I'm so excited to see him stay in Milwaukee. I've been listening to the Woj Pod, the series they did about him getting drafted. He's easily my favorite athlete of all sports, and I'm just really happy he's staying in Milwaukee, and I hope he stays there his whole career. I think a Mavericks-Bucks finals is within the next few years, and I'm just very excited to see that because Luka Doncic, I think, is probably my second favorite player in the NBA right now. I don't know, of all time, he's up there. He's definitely probably top 5, but I don't know if he's number 2 right now. Right now, he's definitely number 2. I just don't know if he's number 2 all time. Like, my other favorite players of all time are probably like Shaq, Vince Carter, Luka Doncic. Ja Morant's up there. I really like Ja Morant. Giannis, Kyrie. Kyrie's gone down over the years because once he left Cleveland, I didn't like him as much. And then also he's kind of, he's got he does good things where he's trying to challenge, social norms about, not talking to the media and stuff. But sometimes I think Kyrie just kind of is a bit of a turnoff with all the negative publicity he gets. He invites conflict, and sometimes I find it great, and other times I'm like, just chill out. And so that's why Giannis is personally my favorite player. He's been my favorite player since 2018. Ever since Kyrie got traded, Kyrie became number 2 then, and then he's kind of gone down because I really like Luka Doncic. And Bam Adebayo's up there too. I love Bam Adebayo. The Heat team is just a really likable team. I like Duncan Robinson too. But and yes, you're wondering, why no Cavs? Well, maybe Isaac Okoro will get on there. And maybe Obi Toppin, even though I don't really like the Knicks that much. But yes, overall, I'm just so freaking happy Giannis is back. And I'm not a diehard Milwaukee fan. I'm a big Milwaukee fan, but I really can't consider myself a diehard fan when I just started liking them back in 2017. And I mean, they've become my second favorite team in the NBA. Cavs, I consider myself a diehard Cavs fan, but I am a guy who I just like the NBA overall. I have favorite teams, but I'm always keeping an eye on other teams and watching what they're doing. I'm not the type of guy that just sits down and only watches Cavs games. That's just not who I am. I'm not like that of any sport. I watch Browns games all the time, and I'm a Panthers fan. But that's just regardless. For the Milwaukee Bucks fans who are that way, and that's the only team they ever watched, and they've been loving them since 1985, at least they should be 10 million times more excited than me, and I think they are, and I'm just really happy for them. Obviously, I'm happy for me because I love the Bucks, and I'm a huge fan, but just props to all those guys who, has been with the Bucks their whole lives, and just I hope Giannis wins the title soon because I really like the Bucks, and they're a good organization. Moving over to preseason thoughts, we shouldn't just hand Obi Toppin the Rookie of the Year trophy yet. He has good games, and I'm very excited to see what he can do, but I'm not. We got to stop doing this thing, guys, where we're just like immediately after somebody does well, it's just boom, there's the award. Or take it away as soon as they do bad. But overall, I mean, he's being really impressive. And then LaMelo Ball is, to me, like I said before, I don't know if I said this, I think I did. He's going to be boom or bust. I'm really happy the Hornets got him. Like, I thought that was the perfect situation. The day before the draft, I thought the Wolves were going to take him. And then I just got this feeling that they were going to take Edwards. And so I ended up writing down on my mock draft I always take. Me and my girlfriend always set up before the draft. I do a big mock draft for NFL and NBA. And I did end up switching it and going Edwards, Wiseman, LaMelo. And I was right. And so I was happy. I changed my mind. But LaMelo's looking really good. And, I mean, could he be an NBA All-Star? Yes. Could he be an NBA MVP? Probably. Now, legacy-wise, we'll just have to see. But, I mean, the Hornets got good stuff going, guys. They don't have a lot of defense, but between Washington, Hayward, him, Graham, and Bridges, they've got a solid team. And Hayward, of course. Like, that's a good playoff team. And their jerseys, I love the new Hornets jerseys. They are so clean. My goodness, they look so good. I mean, I don't even like the Hornets or anything. I've never even thought about buying a Hornets shirt, but I mean, woo! If LaMelo Ball is crazy good, I might have to pick up a t-shirt because those are sweet. I really like you to pick up a full jersey, but I mean, a t-shirt, maybe. Those are sweet. Season predictions. Right now, it is December 18th, so 4 days till the NBA comes back, baby. Let's go. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing a podcast before Christmas, but I'll talk about that more at the end, like when the next one's probably going to be. But, and yes, there won't be a huge gap like there was last time. Sorry about that again. Between the free trial running out and I had to purchase, official Power Director and all that. So, yeah, sorry about that. But now I'm back. And yes, I very much enjoy doing the podcast. Don't worry. And season predictions. I think for the West, we'll start with the West. Lakers, to me, are going to have the best record. They improved the most, I think, out of any team, which is scary because I don't like the Lakers. You guys know I just don't like big market teams that much in any pro sport. They just kind of make me mad, especially LA ones. And, yeah, I don't want to see them do well, but they just got better. And I'm not sure if they're, like, the title to me, we'll talk about the title at the end. But Lakers number 1, and then at the 2, Dom 2K put the Clippers there. I think some people put in the Nuggets, but I still say Clippers probably 2. Between the fact that they're kind of peed off and everything, I think they could have a big season. At 3, I'm going to go a tentative Nuggets. I say tentative because there's 3 teams in that 3 to 5 range, which I can't decide how it goes. Because I'm going to say it right now. I think Luka Doncic is win MVP. And it's not because I love the guy. It's because he's really good, and he's going to be the youngest MVP in NBA history. And the fact that, like, Giannis isn't going to win it again unless something insane happens. If the Bucks go 74-8, he'll win it. That's borderline what has to happen. They have to have an insane record, and he has to put up a borderline triple-double, at least a double-double, because it's so hard to three-peat MVPs. He almost got the MVP stolen from him last year, which I still stand by. It was Giannis last year. I know if you're a big fan of the fact that LeBron should have won it, that's fine. I don't think the reasoning for LeBron winning MVP never made sense to me. Like, Giannis had a crazy season all the way through, and then LeBron really started hyping it up, like kicking his game up near the last 3 months, and they're like, oh, well, LeBron's MVP. And I'm like, what? Giannis was going like 10 out of 10 the whole season. LeBron went 10 out of 10 the last 3 months. Come on. But that's in the past now. Giannis got the MVP and Defense Player of the Year like I wanted him to, and I believed he deserved. Granted, I am a little biased, but I definitely thought he deserved it. And, yes, Giannis is back. Wow. I'm just still so stoked by the fact that he's back. Sorry, guys. Woo! It was a lot of stress for me because I told everybody I knew that he was coming back. So if he didn't, I'd have been really embarrassed. Just really happy about it. Yeah, Lakers number 1. And then I'll go Clippers 2, Nuggets 3. And then I got to go Mavericks 4. I think Luka's just going to have a crazy season. And I mean, with the with the free agency class next year, it looks pretty freaking good. I mean, Victor Oladipo, Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, That's a championship trio right there. That's a great team. I think Porzingis, if he stays healthy, and Luka's a championship duo. But I mean, you had Oladipo in there. If they could sign him next free agency, that's a championship team. And to me, the Mavericks are one of those teams where they're not gonna have a crazy, amazing like record this season. Like they're not gonna win, 68 games or something insane. They're not probably gonna have the best record in the West, but I do think they'll be a top 4, top 5 record. And I think Luka's gonna win MVP. I think LeBron has a good chance, and so does Curry, and kind of Tatum. I think Tatum's got a good chance, but to me, it's Luka. I think Luka's going to win it this year. Or super dark horse would be Zion. I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. I don't think this is the year that he's going to win an MVP. That'd be insane. I don't think it's going to happen. He'll probably get some MVPs by the time he retires, as long as he can stay healthy and stuff. And on another note, please stop underrating Zion because he barely played last season. I think he's going to get a lot of minutes this year, and he's going to be really good in the Zion we all expected to see last year. So I also picked him up my fantasy basketball team, so let's hope I'm right, because I do think Zion is still the future of the NBA along with Luka. I think those are like your big two going forward. But back to that, I think then that makes your 5th team in the West. I say the Blazers. The Blazers are really good. There's just no doubting it. Like, they got Damian. They gotten better. They got Covington. He fits great there. That's a playoff team. Maybe not as good of a record as I'm handing them, but I feel like they can get it done. Scott Brooks is a good coach. He's not like an amazing coach. He's not one of my favorites, but he's good. Then at 6, a part of me wants to say Jazz because I know I should. But another part of me thinks, like, they have this weird duo, and maybe you disagree, but I feel like Donovan and Gobert don't fit together that amazingly. Like, they don't not fit together. I just feel like Gobert is not a scoring big, and so Donovan Mitchell is legitimately the only, like, big star to me they have. Like, Rudy Gobert is an all-star, but really just defensively. So, like, I don't know. It's just weird to me. I don't think they're ever going to get to, like, the Western Conference Finals with this team. I just hope Donovan Mitchell gets something more because I don't want him to leave Utah. I really don't want that to happen. But he might be the next superstar that jets out of there. I hope not, but maybe. Maybe. I'm not sure. So, my number 6 spot... Oh, this is difficult. Well, obviously, the Jazz are right there. I don't think the Thunder are making the playoffs. I'm just going to lay that out now. I think this is a smaller year for them. They're trying to get rebuilt and all that. You know what? No, I'm actually not going to put the Jazz at the 6th spot. I had to think about it a little bit. It's the Suns. The Suns are the 6th spot. I don't think I have to explain myself here. They're a good team. They got good things going there. As long as Chris Paul doesn't fall off, they're gonna be the 6th. 7th seed. Right now, of course, the only teams I think that are left that are legit playoff teams are Pelicans, Warriors, Jazz. I feel like I should put the Warriors. I'm gonna put the Pelicans at 7. I just think they're gonna have a good season. They might even be higher than 7. Like, they're good. But I think Pelicans 7. And then 8. I guess with the 8 seed, I will go. The Jazz aren't bad, though. And neither are the Warriors. I just feel like Curry's going to will them to a record. And that'll make him the 8. And that'll be a crazy good first round. Pelicans, Clippers, Warriors, Lakers. Woo! So I'm going to say Warriors at the 8. Obviously, if I'm completely right, that'd be insane. I don't think I will be. But that's just what I'm thinking right now. And yes, you're saying, okay, you just said earlier the Rockets are a playoff team. Well, when I think about it right now, I don't think so. I think they gotta figure some stuff out. And like I said, try to synergize young guys with John Wall and them. And like I said, I'm not super high on the Jazz. I think in this Western Conference that's even better than it was last year, especially if Luka takes the next step like I'm thinking he's going to. And when I say next step, because he's Luka Doncic, it's like an incredible leap for anybody else because Luka is so good at a young age. It's insane. So I think that's my playoff predictions. Obviously, Jazz could have a very good chance to slip in there, and so could the Rockets, depending on who they get for Harden. And then, of course, that leaves 5 teams that aren't very good out, like Spurs, obviously not, Kings, no. And I did leave out the Grizzlies, and I realized that. I realized I left out the Grizzlies, and I probably shouldn't do that. But it's really hard to think about a way they get in there. I mean, I guess I'll bump the Warriors out and put Grizzlies 8. I believe in Ja Morant more because his team's better than the Warriors. So I'm sorry, Steph. I guess the Warriors are making the playoffs. So I'm sorry that I just switched it last minute there, but I had to think for a little bit. But yeah, I could very obviously be wrong. The Jazz and the Warriors are very much teams that can make the playoffs, but I mean the West is really good, guys. Moving over to the East, best record in the East, I think will end up being the Bucks again. I don't think Giannis is going to step down or anything. He's obviously just going to get better. I think Drew and him are going to be a great pairing. Really excited to see how that goes. They got some nice pieces off. They don't have Hill this year, which kind of bothers me. And, of course, they don't have Wesley Matthews. So that's upsetting, but they still have Brooke. They lost Robin, but they still have Brooke Lopez. And I'm trying to think. For number 2 spot, I think I'm going to go Celtics or Nets. I can't decide. I trust the Celtics more, so I guess I'll go with them. I think I'll go with the Celts because I trust them more. And so, yeah, Celtics number 2, Bucks number 1. And, yeah, I don't think I have to explain either of those. I think those both make sense. Celtics might actually be better, in my opinion, this year because I just think all their young guys are going to get better. Also, side note, Marcus Smart is quickly becoming one of my favorite players, and I know that might be a little controversial, but because some people don't like him, but he's just so good defensively and good offensively. Like, he's just a great player. He's a player he's their Fred VanVleet, in my opinion. Not from, like, a play perspective. They don't play the exact same way, but I'm saying, like, one of those guys every team would be lucky to have. And then I put the Nets at 3. Number 4 is tough because I feel like the Raptors are still good, but I don't know how good, and I trust the Heat more. So I'm going to put the Heat at 4. But, I mean, all 4 of those teams could be the number 1. They could all jump around. Those are the 4 best teams in the East, and they could all jump around. The Sixers I don't think are going to get in the top 4. I'll put them at 5. But this could all easily change if James Harden gets traded within the first couple months of the NBA. Or if he gets traded tonight. I feel like because I'm saying all this, he's going to get traded tonight, and I'll have to be like, crap. But probably not. Now that I've made the joke that he will, it won't happen. I think the Sixers at 5. And even if Harden gets there later in the season, they'll probably have lost enough games at the beginning. I think Doc Rivers is going to do Doc Rivers stuff where he's like, oh, well, Ben Simmons is one of the best players ever coached, and Joel Embiid's the best big man I've ever seen, where he always does that type of stuff. I mean, nothing against him, it's just funny. He always does that type of stuff, the Doc Rivers stuff. I think they're going to be a good team. Those top 5 teams are all good, but I just don't think the Sixers are as good as the top 4, if that makes sense. 6th seed, another weird one, but I think I should go Raptors here. I want to say Hornets, but I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself by saying Hornets. So I guess I'll go Raptors, which is a bit of a boring pick, but a truthful one. Pacers, probably going to make it, so I'll put them at 7. And the 8th seed gets interesting because I either have to bet on the all-offense duo of Westbrook and Beal or the all-offense duo of the Hornets, which isn't a duo. It's like 4 guys that all play offense only. I guess I'm going to trust the Hornets more, it is risky, and I know that. To me, the Pacers are too good. Like, they're coached too well to, I guess Nate McMillan's gone, but I'm saying the Pacers always end up doing well. Like, with DeMontis Sabonis. Like, they're a boring team to say they're going to make the playoffs, but I can't really bet against them. They're too good at what they do. And so I'm going to go Pacers 7, Hornets 8, and the Wizards don't make the playoffs in this. I'm sorry, Wizards fans. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I'm sorry. And yes, the Bulls don't make it here either. I think Billy Donovan's going to have a really good year rebuilding them, but I still think another year till they make the playoffs. And Patrick Williams was an interesting pick for them. I'm interested to see what happens there. Finals predictions, MVP. Rookie of the year, I feel like is going to be LaMelo. I think Obi might be a candidate. Maybe a Coro, but that might be, wishing for hope. Edwards has a chance, and so does Wiseman. And I don't think the Timberwolves are going to do anything insane this year, which obviously isn't good for them because, Cat could demand a trade soon, but I don't think he will yet. But it's just the facts. I don't think the Timberwolves have it yet. Edwards could be really good, though. But, I think LaMelo will win Rookie of the Year. Sixth man, I'm obviously not going to try to predict yet. And maybe it's somebody for the Lakers, I think. There's a high chance. They've got some good guys off the bench. Well, they did lose Howard, and they lost Rondo, so maybe not. And in the East, I did just realize that I left out the Hawks, and I'd rather put them at the 8 spot than the Hornets. I trust the Hawks more. So, once again, I traded out the 8 spot after realizing I forgot a team. Sorry about that, guys. The Hawks would definitely be 8. I just do this off the top of my head. I didn't have it written down because I knew I'd end up changing my mind as soon as I said it. So, the Hawks be 8. Hornets don't make the playoffs. Sorry, Hornets fans. But Hawks, they got some good stuff. And maybe I'm underrating them at 8. But I think they got some stuff to figure out on the defensive end. Onyeka Okongwu was a great pick for them, though. Perfect pick for them. It was weird how Tyrese Halliburton slid all that way, though. Down to, I think it was 12 when the Kings picked him. That was a shock. Moving over, though, to, we were talking about the awards. Obviously, I really can only predict MVP, Rookie of the Year. I could predict Defensive Player of the Year, but that's always hard to predict. So I guess I just say MVP, Luka, Rookie of the Year, LaMelo. I think it's how it's going to go. And then finals, I want to say Bucks Mavericks because I would love that, but I think it's going to be Bucks Lakers or Celtics Lakers. I think those are your 2 most likely options. Why not the Nets? I just got a better feeling about the Bucks and the Celtics. Truly just a gut thing. Clippers have a chance, of course. So did the Nuggets, and so did the Mavericks. But I just feel like Bucks Lakers is what it was. I thought it was going to be that last year. It wasn't. I still think it's going to be again this year because Giannis' team's even better now. And I'm probably biased, and I'm sorry, but I just think it's going to be Bucks Lakers. And I hope the Bucks win, but the Lakers might win it again. But that's my pick right now is Bucks Lakers. I'm not sure who wins it. Maybe I'll have a definitive decision in a month. Moving over to college football. Clemson versus Notre Dame is tomorrow. I'm incredibly excited. If Notre Dame wins this, Clemson's out of the playoff in my opinion. I don't think Clemson should make it. Living in Ohio, of course, everybody thinks Ohio State should make it, but I completely understand if Ohio State doesn't because they haven't played that many games, but I think they're going to unless they lose to Northwestern, and they're not going to lose to Northwestern. So I think they're going to make it. Obviously, the number 1 is going to be Bama. Number 2 is going to be Notre Dame. If they get beaten by Clemson, they might drop to 3, but I don't really think that makes sense to move Clemson up. So it'll probably just stay the same, where right now it's Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State in that order. Unless, I think Clemson is number 3. I think Ohio State's 4. I can't remember if Clemson's 4 or 3, but I'm pretty sure they're 3. But if Clemson loses Notre Dame, I think they're out, and that moves in. I'd love it to be BYU moving in, but it's probably Texas A&M. And Texas A&M, Bama, you just get the brown on the maroon. It's not going to be a very pretty game from a jersey perspective. Notre Dame, Ohio State, I want to see so bad. So terribly bad. I just saw they're threatening to not go to the college football playoff if the parents aren't allowed. I hope they allow parents because I want to see Notre Dame be in the college football playoff because I really think the national championship is going to be Notre Dame-Bama. And I want to have Notre Dame win, but I think I know better than that. So I'm going to say Bama beats Notre Dame and then championship. I think that's what it's going to be this year. I want to see Notre Dame win. Like, I'll be rooting for them the whole game. I really like Notre Dame this year. For those that don't know, I'm not a huge Ohio State fan. Like, they're technically the team I like, but I'm not really in love with them. So Maybe I'll slowly start to shift over to Notre Dame because I really like what they're doing over there. They got a great coach, Brian Kelly. So I'm pretty sure that's his name. I want to make sure though, but uh, yeah, Brian Kelly. I want to make sure. Sometimes with coaches' names, I end up making like Brian Keene, and then it's like Brian Kelly to me. I sometimes messed up. But yeah, Notre Dame's got a good thing going, and I hope they win the championship, but I feel like it'll be Bama. NFL draft still the same to me. I think Lawrence is going to the Jets. The Giants looks like aren't going to take a quarterback, because I don't think Fields is going to drop that much. I don't think they'll take a quarterback. So I think that means Fields to Jacksonville. And the other guys who could take quarterbacks, I think Mac Jones is very, very highly likely to go to the Patriots, and so is Kyle Trask. Trey Lance has a high chance to go to the Colts. The Broncos could also be looking at Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. So there's a couple teams that could take quarterbacks. Maybe the Raiders, but probably not. They seem to be pretty happy with Derek Carr, and he's not really doing that bad. So that moves us over perfectly into NFL, and I guess I have a lot of points about NFL. I think I have 10 right here. We're going to start with just me going off because, my goodness, if you're not watching the Browns games for Nick Chubb, what are you doing? And I know that sounds weird, A, watching Browns games when you're not a person that lives in Ohio, and B, watching them for Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb is seriously, he's one of the top 5 best backs, in my opinion, in the NFL. And he's not a modern running back, in my opinion. Like, Derrick Henry's also kind of this way, where it's just like a power back, except Chubb is just huge. He's just this big old dude who just barrels in and just gets yards. And he, in my opinion, if you look up Nick Chubb highlights, watch any Browns game. Like, watch the Browns game this Sunday, because he is the king, in my opinion, of getting tackled and getting extra yards. Like, I've seen this guy have 3 guys draped on him, and he's just barely inching his way for an extra 2 yards. Like, he's just so incredibly fun to watch. My mother's a huge Browns fan, and I told her, I'm like, I admit I love watching these Browns games because I just love watching Nick Chubb. And, like, the Browns have really turned it around this season. They're I would say, one of the top 5 teams in the AFC, in my opinion. We'll get over to that in a bit about the playoffs, because we're getting near the end of it, so we're getting a pretty good idea of who's making the playoffs and who's not. And, the Browns are doing well. They had an absolute classic of a game, which I stayed up late for, which was the Ravens-Browns game on Monday Night Football, which if you didn't watch, what were you doing? I watched it from a minute and a half in. I missed the first minute and a half, and then I watched all the way till the end. And I was very upset the Browns lost, because I'm not a Browns fan. Like I said, my mother is, but I do like watching them win. I like this team. I want to see the Browns do well. And I've got a lot of friends that are Browns fans who have been suffering for years, and I really want to see them do well. And I also, like, the Ravens are all right. Lamar Jackson, I'm a big Mahomes fan. We all know this. Mahomes is, like, my favorite football player ever. So, being a Panthers fan who loves Patrick Mahomes and Nick Chubb, just the weirdest thing on the planet. I also do like Chris McCaffrey and Teddy Bridgewater. They're also some of my favorites. But, yeah, Nick Chubb he impresses me more and more every game I watch. He is, like I said, like, he gets tackled and he just keeps going and keeps getting extra yards. It's just very impressive to me. And he's just a big boy, and I love watching the Browns. I think he is their best player other than Garrett, because I do think Garrett is AFC Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. Might be a little biased because living in Ohio, I watch every Browns game every Sunday. The Panthers games are barely ever on because they're not really good enough to get the nationally televised game. So, yeah, I always end up watching Browns, Bengals, Steelers. Bengals not as much now that Burrow's hurt, and we'll talk about Burrow in a bit. But the Browns are just so much fun to watch right now. They've gotten away from when they were at the beginning of the season where it was like they played kind of bad, but the other team played worse. It was weird. Now they're actually playing like good football, and Nick Chubb to me is the center of that offense, and he's just so good. And Kareem Hunt is obviously amazing too, but Nick Chubb he's not going to win like AFC Offensive Player of the Year or anything this year. But if you watch a Browns game, just pay attention to the fact that Nick Chubb is seriously one of the best backs in the NFL. And I just hope he never leaves the Browns. I might get a jersey of him. I mean, like, he is seriously so much fun to watch. And also, that big crash just hurts me dropping my phone, which has all my topics on it. My second topic was the Browns are fun, and in parentheses, Garrett is amazing. So, yeah, just if you're not watching Browns games, please do, because they're kind of really good. The Dolphins keep impressing me. They're a great organization. They've turned everything around in like 3 years, which is insane. Tua is great for them. He's obviously not as good as Herbert. And like they said in the Bill Simmons podcast, quick tangent, Herbert, no one watches Herbert because Los Angeles Chargers fans there are hardly any Los Angeles Chargers fans. And Herbert is so freaking good. And I feel like most people that like him are just people that will have NFL Sunday ticket and they can just watch every game they want. So I'm just saying, like, please Chargers fans, like people that don't have NFL teams, start liking the Chargers. Just everybody in the world bandwagon onto the Chargers because Herbert needs more love. He's so freaking good. Like Bill Simmons said, he's like, could you imagine if Herbert was like on the Bears right now? Like, they would be insufferably happy right now. They would be like talking about nothing but Herbert. And I agree with that. Like, Herbert's so freaking good. He should be Rookie of the Year now that Burrow is injured. I'm just impressed. And the Dolphins, I mean, they've got themselves set up for the next 4 or 5 years to be good. I really like their coach. They almost beat the Chiefs, except the Chiefs are, in my opinion, the best team in the NFL, so I was not surprised that they ended up coming back. Oddly enough, that was Mahomes' worst game I think he's probably ever played since, like, he started being their starting quarterback, and they still won. It's just funny. That's how good Patrick Mahomes is. He ended up coming back. You look at his stats. If you take away the interception, he's still had really good passing yards, good amount of touchdowns. Like, he's still, like, even on a bad day for Mahomes, he still did really well. So that was just weird. But yeah, the Dolphins are fun. They've got a great defense. Their offense is coming along. Like, they've got good things going out in Miami. Jalen Hurts, the big question. I think Carson Wentz is definitely gone. I think Jalen Hurts is really good. I don't think I said this on the podcast, but, like, I thought he was going to be a really good NFL quarterback. Obviously, Lincoln Riley knows how to get NFL quarterbacks ready between Baker and Kyler Murray. And if you're not watching Cardinals games, once again, please watch Cardinals games. They're fun. They've slowed down in the second half of the season, but they're really good too. I don't think they're the Super Bowl team yet. I think they could be a Super Bowl contender within the next couple years. I have Kyler Murray on my fantasy league, which is a dynasty league, so I really hope that happens. But yeah, the Cardinals are really building something special too, but they're kind of like the NFC version of the Dolphins for me, except the Dolphins are a little more fun because it's Miami and they've, like, come on, how do you not like the Dolphins? It's fun to see them do well. But Jalen Hurts, I think they should trade Carson, and I think the criticism of him is probably too much. It's exaggerated, but that's just the way it goes, I guess. I think Hurts is good for the Eagles, and I'd like to see him become the starting quarterback. Wentz, I heard somebody mention the Steelers, and I kind of like that. If he just backs up for Ben and then he slides into that, I don't know how my father will feel. He is a big Steelers fan. I know it's funny. My mom's a huge Browns fan. He's a big Steelers fan, just the way it is. And I'm a Panthers fan, so I just got out of there. But I would love to see Carson Wentz on the Steelers, and he takes up after Ben. But not everything goes my way. He could go to the Colts, and the Colts, I think, should draft a quarterback or trade for him. So the Wentz thing is very interesting. I would love to see Steelers, but I do think he's done throwing for the Eagles. Josh Allen and the Bills. The Bills are so much fun, too. There's just so many fun NFL teams. And this isn't one of those things where it's like there's so many fun teams. It's a shame that the Patriots are better than all of them. It's not a shame that the Chiefs are better than all of them. Because the Chiefs, to me, they're dominant, but they're good guy dominant. They're not evilly dominant. And so I still say, I stand by the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl this year. I have no doubt in my mind. And Mahomes is going to win it again. And I think, well, I guess we'll be over to MVP talks in a bit. Yeah, the Josh Allen, he's really impressed me this season. He's an NFL MVP candidate. I don't think he is the MVP, but he's definitely a prime candidate. And I mean, the Bills are just a good team. Between Stephon Diggs, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Shout out to Justin Jefferson on the Vikings, though. He should win NFC Rookie of the Year. He's great. Uh, the Vikings just have a history of really good wide receivers between Moss, Stephon, and him. But Josh Allen and the Bills are just so much fun. Like, if you live in New York and you like the Giants or the Jets, just start liking the Bills. Granted, I have no idea if you're really allowed to do that or if your family will, like, excommunicate you. But I just think the Bills are so much fun. Just like them. They're so much fun, and they're going to be good for, like, the next 4 years. Like, the Bills could potentially be in the Super Bowl within the next 5 years, and that's crazy. The Steelers obviously have cracks. They just lost back-to-back games, and I'm not really surprised. I thought the Chiefs were better than them, but now they have this weird thing where, like, their offense is looking really rough. And between their injuries on defense, I'm not sure if the Steelers are even going to make the AFC title at this point. I think they still will, but if you run into the Bills in the first, I mean, if you run into the Bills in the divisional, I think you're done. I think the Bills are better. And the Chiefs-Bills, I still believe the Chiefs win that, but, I mean, the Bills would be tough. They really would. Chiefs, I do believe, are going to be the number 1 seed, and then that would end up making them play the 7th seed. No, sorry. The Chiefs, I do think are going to be the number. All right, we're going to move over to playoff predictions. I guess I'm already starting to talk about it. I think the number 1 seed in the NFC is going to end up being the Saints, which is weird because I don't think the Saints, it's them or the Packers. Well, now they realize the Saints still have to play the Chiefs, so I guess I'll say Packers. And to me, the Saints and the Packers are both weird teams. I think they're both really good, but I don't think they're good enough to be, like, Super Bowl good, but they might actually end up making it. So I guess the Packers my number 1. The Saints will end up being, like, 2. And then probably 3's the Rams. Another weird team where I'm like, I don't see them in the Super Bowl, but they're got a good record. And then Bucks, Seahawks, Cardinals, and there's another NFC team I am forgetting. Oh, yeah, the NFC East. The NFC East champion. I'm going to go with the Washington football team. I think they're probably going to win it. So that would end up making it so I think in that route, I think the Cardinals end up making it as the 7th seed. And they would have to play the Saints. And, I mean, that game goes either way. I guess I'll give the look to the Saints. But I feel like, to be honest, they might actually lose to the Cardinals. But that's a coin toss. Regardless, though, that team would probably end up losing anyway to the 3-seeded Rams or Seahawks, because the Seahawks are probably going to end up being the 5th or 6th, because the Seahawks still have to play the Rams again. And that game, keep your eyes on that game, because that game changes everything. If the Seahawks win, the entire NFC flips. Like, the first 2 seeds are the same, like the Packers and the Saints. But everything else switches. I've looked through the NFL playoff machine on ESPN a couple times, and that game shifts everything every time. So I guess I'm going to say the Seahawks lose to them, and the Rams stay the 3 seed. So then that'd be, I think the 6th seed ends up being the Bucks or the Seahawks. I'm going to say the Seahawks end up being 5th. So that would be, I think the Rams beat the Bucks, maybe, but playoff Brady's insane. So I'm going to give the nod to the Bucks, and then I think they end up beating the Saints or the Cardinals regardless, which put them in the NFC title. I think the Seahawks would end up beating a Washington football team, and then Seahawks, Packers. I'm going to give the nod to the Seahawks, tentatively. Bucks, Seahawks. I'm going to give Seahawks the look. And the NFC is tough this year because I feel like there's a bunch of really good teams, but there's not, like, an amazing team. Whereas in the AFC, there's, like, in my opinion, one, like, godly team, which is the Chiefs, and then an amazing team, which is the Bills, a really great team, 2 really great teams, which are the Steelers and the Browns, and then, like, 2 really good teams, which are, like, the Ravens and the Colts and the Titans and the Dolphins. And I know I said 2, I meant 4. I'm sorry. But, yeah, it's just kind of weird how the NFC shakes out like that. So then I think Seahawks, Chiefs is the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs win. Over the AFC, Chiefs number 1, Steelers number 2, Bills number 3, Colts number 4, or Titans. But I think I trust the Titans more to win that division, but I'm going to check the standings really quick. I'm not sure who's actually ahead right now in the NFL standings for the AFC South. So I'm going to look at that just really quick. But other than that, the Browns and the Ravens obviously make the playoffs too. I don't know if the Ravens beat the Browns. They had to win that game, or else they weren't going to make the playoffs. That was the reality of the situation. And I don't think the Ravens are going to lose again. So, they're probably going to make it. But the Dolphins only get to make it if the Colts and the Titans lose more. That's what has to happen, because the Colts and the Titans are both 9-4 right now. So I guess I'm going to give the nod to the Titans. I trust them more. I hope the Colts lose more because I want the Dolphins to make the playoffs, or the Ravens lose. One of those has to happen, for my opinion. And I do think the Colts have a high chance of losing a game, and so do the Ravens, but I just believe the Colts will. I think there's a better chance of it. So I think that ends up making it so the 7th seed would be the Ravens, the 6th seed would be the Dolphins, the 5th seed would be the Browns, the 5 would, of course, play the 4, which would be the Colts. The Browns, I think, beat the Colts. Sorry, not the Colts, Titans. I'm sorry, even I'm getting confused. The Titans, and then the Chiefs have a bye. The Steelers would end up playing the 7th-seeded Ravens, and I think the Steelers beat them. And then the Dolphins would end up playing the Bills. The Bills beat the Dolphins. Bills beat the Steelers. Chiefs beat the Browns. Yeah. And then, of course, the Chiefs beat the Bills. And, Browns, Chiefs, Bills, Chiefs, Seahawks, Chiefs. That's some fun Chiefs games. MVP Mahomes? Yes, please. I believe that's it. I believe Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. It was looking like Wilson, and I thought it was going to be Wilson, but Mahomes has been doing really well, and I can't not give it to him. So I think Patrick Mahomes is the MVP this season. Granted, he had a bad game, but I think between Wilson really slowed down some. Josh Allen's a great candidate. I think he hasn't had as many crazy games as Mahomes has, though. And Mahomes is just, the whole season, he's looked like the best quarterback in the NFL. He is the best quarterback in the NFL. I think he deserves it, and I think he will get it. In a year, most MVP races, and this goes for all sports, where it's not very clear, they end up going with the tried and true best player when it's like in between a couple guys. And Mahomes is obviously seen as better than Josh Allen and them, so give it to Mahomes. I think he's got it. So MVP Mahomes. Wrapping up, I realized this the other day and told my mother, and she flipped out because she's an English major and has taught English at high school for like 25 years. Joe Burrow is the hero's journey. And the hero's journey, for those of you who don't know, is like the tried and true formula that you've seen a million times without realizing it. And there's many books and, all this stuff written about it. And it basically follows a pattern. And to give you a perfect example, it's like Star Wars, where there's always the mentor character like Obi-Wan, and they always go on a journey, and then they face a certain amount of trials and all this stuff. And then they end up coming back more powerful than ever. And there's always, you can just go look up the hero's journey. Frodo follows it, Neo follows it, Luke Skywalker follows it. They all follow it. The Lego movie, Emmett from the Lego movie follows it. But Burrow is the hero's journey. He starts off, he thinks he's going to do well at Ohio State, and then he faces challenge, so then he ends up having to leave his hometown, goes off on this journey to prove himself, becomes greater than anyone ever thought he could be. Now he comes back to pretty much help his own town, fight and become great. I just find that weird. I don't know if that made sense to you, but I think it does. It's very interesting. Joe Burrow, that's why because we were basically talking about when he got hurt, and I'm incredibly upset he got injured. And really the only silver lining there is the fact that now the Bengals are going to do bad this season. Hopefully they get a better pick and they can draft somebody good for when he's back. So at least that's the silver lining. But we were talking about how Burrow, I was incredibly upset that he was injured. Burrow is one of the most liked players in the NFL already. And I think I was like, well, it's because he's the hero's journey. And I just find that interesting that he straight up, he follows a movie plot line. It's just very interesting. Yeah, I'm just incredibly upset Burrow's injured. I hope the Bengals can get everything together because I want to see him go down as one of the best quarterbacks ever. But granted, like I said before, I think Mahomes is going to end up being the greatest quarterback of all time. Thank you for listening. I'm obviously kind of biased toward Mahomes and Giannis, but Mahomes and Giannis are probably the two best players in their respective sports right now. But yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo re-signed. I'm so freaking happy. Mahomes, I think, is going to win MVP, so the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, which would be pretty funny because that means he wins MVP one year, Super Bowl the next year, and then both of them the next year. So I don't know what he'll do. I guess he'll just win Coach of the Year next year. Yeah, that's all for now. Pretty much on the next podcast, I'll probably do on Christmas week. If not, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you still have a happy holiday season. Yeah, that's it. Make sure you watch some NBA games, and please watch Browns games and give Nick Chubb some love, along with giving Justin Herbert some love because they're both very good and underrated. And yeah, woo! Giannis is back. See you all next time.